SMSF. Commercial properties. As a business owner, if I buy a property, can I still operate my business and it can be rented out? I can pay rent as well.
If you're a business owner, you want to rent out a space. So basically you can utilize your SMSF to buy that commercial property and then rent it out to your business, which is really interesting because from tax point of view, when you look at it, end of the day, the SMSF from capital gain tax point of view before retirement is only taxed at 10%, and after that is 0%. So imagine, if you're buying an asset in today's value and 20-30 years down the line, you'll have a major capital gain sitting in there, and that's all tax-free money.
Welcome to the Property Investor Series. Today we have Yuvraj from Clear Tax Accounting talking about all things SMSF. So Yuvraj, let's kick it off for our viewers. Let's start off with what is SMSF, and everyone is talking about it, but let's start off with the basics on how it all works. What are the basics of SMSF?
At the end of the day, it's about control. So if you got a, let's say, any super, somebody else is controlling that for you. But when you go into an SMSF space, which is self-managed superannuation fund, so basically you are the driver there. So you got the control in terms of decision making, what to do with your investments. Yeah. So you have to choose either where you want to invest your cash. Either it's in going into a property or into stocks or ETFs. So end of the day, you're making all the decisions. Yeah.
I hear the key word is the control.
Yeah.
And we can use a control. We can use that money to invest in property.
Yeah.
We can use it in different other assets. But nowadays, people are talking about property investment in SMSF.
Yeah.
It's sort of the it word at the moment. Why property in SMSF?
Probably is the leverage component as well, because if you're investing in shares, for example, you're going on cash basis. If you got $100, you can only invest up to that amount into that asset. But if you're going a property, maybe you're going into leverage where you're just putting 20% of the value and the rest is coming from the bank. So that's what I think intrigue most of the people to go into that, to increase their income at the end of the day.
Yeah, leverage is a word we mortgage brokers like to hear.
Yeah.
How much you would like to leverage on that?
Yeah, of course.
Based on what their contributions are. There are different type of assets or different type of properties people buy in SMSF.
Yeah.
And at times you feel a client has bought a property which might need some works done. If they need to alter the condition of the property, how does that work? And if, let's say, can they buy a residential property and they have to leave it as an investment, or can they move in?
There's a lot of rules and regulations are in place. So in terms of your first question, yes, you can allow to do repairs, but in terms of changing the structure of the property, major renovation, unfortunately, you cannot do that within the SMSF. And now again, if you bought it as an investment property, it has to remain as an investment. You cannot move in the property until you're into the retirement. After 65, if you want, you can change the title holding towards you and you can live in that property. But before that, it's not possible.
But commercial properties, as a business owner, if I buy a property, can I still operate my business and it can be rented out? I can pay rent as well?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's again, very interesting question. And a lot of businesses we've seen keep on doing that. So basically, if you're a business owner, you want to rent out a space. So basically you can utilize your SMSF to buy that commercial property and then rent it out to your business, which is really interesting because from tax point of view, when you look at it, end of the day, the SMSF from capital gain tax point of view before retirement is only taxed at 10%. And after that is 0%. So imagine, if you're buying an asset in today's value and 20-30 years down the line, you'll have a major capital gain sitting in there, and that's all tax-free money.
And a question we often mortgage broker get asked on SMSF, I bought an SMSF property 5 years ago. Now it is doubled in value.
Yeah.
Can I use the equity from that property and buy another property? SMSF is very different. Make sure you discuss with your accountant before making any decision on that.
Yeah.
Because there is another layer of bare trust involved, and accessing the equity is not as simple as you think like a normal property.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, you're not allowed to access the equity within the SMSF space just because of the restrictions in place. Yeah. Yeah. So you're not allowed to do something what you can do within either your personal name or in a family trust. Yeah. That can be done within the SMSF. Yeah.
And with SMSF, if a client has extra funds, or if I want to deposit extra $10,000 into that property and that money might sit in as a surplus, can I take that money out?
You're not allowed to take anything out of the SMSF. Either you are in your retirement phase, either in transition phase, transition to retirement, or actual pension phase. Before that, you're not allowed to take anything out of the SMSF. Whatever you're putting in, it's there when you retire. So if you start, people start taking money out, maybe they've got nothing left out at when they going to actually into retirement phase. So that's why hence the restriction come into place. So to make sure the people have savings there for their retirement pension.
And last thing a property owner wants is an audit from ATO where
Yeah,
they get stuck in paperwork, and the time they should be spending on making money and investing in property, they're spending on ATO bills and
That's
audit
right,
fees
yeah.
and stuff. And that's something they need to absolutely avoid. So important is to speak to someone experienced such as yourself
Yeah.
to get the understanding around SMSF before jumping into it. And often we get asked about fees and charges under SMSF.
Yeah.
It's easier to buy a property, but what are the other implications which comes with that?
I mean, you need to set up a trust, which is called SMSF, and then you need to set up another holding trust as well. Cost wise, again, it depends. Every vendor has their own fees and charges. There are people which are offering very competitive deals. So and then there's ongoing fees as well. You need to get the audits done as well for each year. So basically, a comparison has to be done at the client's end in terms of, are they seeing any value in terms of either going out and buying the property, whether they see after 10-20 years what sort of value they're getting in terms of the fees they're paying. Yeah. So that decision has to be made upfront before they make a decision that is this the right structure for me or not.
Yeah, look,
Yeah.
important is to make sure you don't make your decision yourself.
Yeah.
Get an accountant to do that.
Yeah, of course. And I advise people as well, to have a financial advisor involved as well in that space. So you get an overall picture in terms of what's going on, whether what you're doing, how it's going to, amplify in the longer run,
All right, that's excellent. A lot of information.
Yeah.
And SMSF is a tricky space.
Yeah.
Although we deal with that on daily basis, but important for any property investor before getting into that path is to speak to an accountant, speak to your financial advisor who can point you to the right
Of course.
direction.
Yeah.
So Yuvraj, thank you for coming in. It was a pleasure having you.